Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're unraveling the defining conflict of Westerosi history, the Dance of the Dragons. We're going to untangle this massive web of Targaryen allegiances and dragon fire to show you exactly how escalation can literally burn a continent to the ground. Let's get right into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the catalyst for war, move into escalation and retaliation, look at gathering the armies, examine the dragon arsenal, and finally, dive into the Season 3 climax.
Part 1. The Catalyst for War. Okay, let's dive into this.
So, years prior, King Viserys explicitly names Rhaenyra his heir, right? But on his final night, he's heavily medicated, nearing death, he speaks to his wife Alicent about Aegon the Conqueror's prophecy, the Song of Ice and Fire. He actually believes he's talking to Rhaenyra, but Alicent, she hears the name Aegon and genuinely believes the king means their son. And boom, the very next morning, Aegon is crowned. Just days later, Rhaenyra feels her birthright has been entirely stolen and she's preparing for war. It's honestly incredible when you realize that a single, fatal deathbed misunderstanding literally sparked a continental inferno.
So the realm immediately splits into two fiercely opposed camps. You've got Rhaenyra and Daemon's Blacks over on Dragonstone, facing off against Aegon and Alicent's Greens in King's Landing. Now, as we track this, we absolutely aren't taking sides here, we're simply following the source material. The key thing to remember is that both factions firmly, 100%, believe the Iron Throne is rightfully theirs.
Part 2. Escalation and Retaliation.
The entire dark nature of this conflict is perfectly captured in this absolutely chilling quote from Daemon Targaryen, "A son for a son." When Rhaenyra's son is killed, the response isn't some calculated military maneuver. No, it's a targeted, horrific assassination of a child. And this really becomes the overarching theme of their retaliation cycle. We're no longer just looking at a war over a chair. It's deeply, deeply personal vengeance. And the human cost, it's just devastating. The sheer velocity of the bloodshed is staggering. First, Prince Lucerys is killed in the skies over Storm's End. In immediate retaliation, assassins infiltrate the Red Keep and slay King Aegon's young heir. Then, the Greens strike back, with Sir Criston Cole marching a ground army to Rook's Rest. The Blacks send Princess Rhaenys to defend it, but she and her dragon perish in a massive ambush. And right in the middle of that fiery chaos, King Aegon himself is severely burned and actually betrayed by his own brother Aemond. You see how each horrific act essentially guarantees an even more devastating blow in response? But here's the thing. The damage isn't just happening between the factions, it's rotting them from the inside out. Rhaenyra admits she cannot trust Daemon. This forces him on a rogue mission to the cursed, crumbling castle of Harrenhal to basically raise an army entirely on his own. Which, understandably, leaves Rhaenyra questioning, is he actually fighting for her crown, or is he trying to steal his own?
Part 3. Gathering the Armies.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how the chaotic geography of Westeros quickly solidifies into distinct strategic fronts. In the Riverlands, Daemon claims Harrenhal for the Blacks, but his status there is pretty shaky. He's plagued by fears of treachery among the local lords. Over in the West, Jason Lannister is actively marshaling forces for the Greens to march across the continent. Meanwhile, at sea, down in the Gullet, Corlys Velaryon maintains a punishing naval blockade for the Blacks, and he's successfully choking off vital trade to King's Landing.
But while the High Lords and Royals are playing this grand game of military chess, we really have to anchor ourselves on this harsh thematic reality. The dragons dance and men are like dust under their feet. The small folk, the everyday citizens in King's Landing, they're the ones paying the true price here. They're starving, they're completely terrified, and they are desperately trying to flee a city that has literally closed its gates on them.
And because of this massive unrest, pure military might isn't the only weapon in play. Rhaenyra uses some brilliant PR tactics here. She sends small ships loaded with food as a literal gift to the starving smallfolk, aiming to turn public opinion entirely against the Greens. In response to that, the Greens resort to making dangerous backdoor deals with their old enemies, the Triarchy. They're hoping this ruthless pirate fleet can finally break the Velaryon blockade. And, behind everyone's back, a completely disillusioned Alicent secretly travels to meet Rhaenyra, offering to open the gates of King's Landing to avoid any further slaughter. So the tide of war is shifting through whispers and betrayals just as much as it is on the battlefield.
Part 4. The Dragon Arsenal.
Let's move on and see how this builds. To counter the existential threat of Aemon's massive dragon, Vhagar, Rhaenyra deploys a desperate, heavily norm-breaking strategy. Step 1. She acknowledges Vhagar's sheer dominance in the air. Her current dragons just aren't big enough to win a direct fight. Step 2.
she makes the unprecedented move to seek out Targaryen bastards. We're talking everyday people with Valyrian blood just hiding among the small folk. And step 3, she invites them to try and claim the massive, previously riderless dragons Vermithor and Silverwing.
Each of you has left behind a life to which you might never return. Let us raise an army of bastards. I really want you to feel the weight of this decision. For centuries, the Targaryens have strictly gatekept their dragons to maintain a total monopoly on absolute power. By handing over what are essentially weapons of mass destruction to commoners, Rhaenyra completely shatters centuries of tradition. But the gamble pays off. These completely untested new riders claim the beasts, and basically overnight, they transform the entire balance of power.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. With massive, lethal beasts now heavily armed and piloted on both sides, Aemon's supreme advantage is completely neutralized. The board is perfectly set. Which forces us to ask the ultimate question. What happens when the dragons finally dance?
Part 5, the Season 3 Climax.
Entering this new phase, the conflicting visions are incredibly stark. Rhaenyra is resolute. She states that her enemy's defeat is written, and she aims to use her newly acquired dragon superiority to secure King's Landing without any further bloodshed. Meanwhile, Aemond is equally unyielding. He insists she will certainly fail, declaring that they will raise their own throne. It is a clash of absolute certainties. Neither side is backing down a single inch.
Now the Greens have a distinct counter-strategy to Rhaenyra's heir superiority, and this brilliantly illustrates their mindset. As Ormond Hightower explains, little by little, bite by bite, we are exposing her as weak and unsuited to rule. While Rhaenyra focuses on dominating the skies, the Greens are running this methodical, grueling ground campaign. They want to systematically erode her legitimacy in the eyes of the lords, trying to prove that raw firepower doesn't automatically equate to the right to rule.
Synthesizing all of this, the key tensions for the upcoming climax are just incredibly high. Rhaenyra marches her terrifying new forces on a highly vulnerable King's Landing. But Corlys Velaryon hits her with a really hard truth. Yes, she has dragons, but her subjects do not feel safe, nor should they. Meanwhile, in a massive strategic twist, the injured King Aegon is secretly smuggled out of the city by Larys Strong, which means taking the capital won't actually end the war. And hovering over all of it is Alicent, reminding Rhaenyra of the immense path of destruction they've chosen. It really proves that the crown is indeed a weight that crushes.
Rhaenyra's entire campaign culminates in this singular, intensely focused demand, bring Aegon, the usurper, to me. To fully solidify her claim and end the war, she needs to eliminate the rival king. But the dramatic irony here is incredibly thick. As we just saw, Aegon has already been spirited away into hiding. She might win the city, but her ultimate prize has vanished right out from under her.
Which leaves us with this provocative final thought. The crown crushes whoever wears it, but who will survive the final dance? We've watched a tragic family misunderstanding escalate into a continent-spanning war of unimaginable human cost. The pieces are on the board, the armies are marching, and the skies are filled with fire. The devastation is really only just beginning. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope this structured look helped untangle all that chaos for you. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep learning.